Hey everybody, I am Cody Hetzel, one of the co-founders for the Childfree Convention, and with me today is Lenora Faye. Hey Lenora.
Hi, I'm Lenora Faye, also one of the co-founders of Childfree Convention.
And we've got a really fun topic we're going to talk about today. It kind of answers maybe one of those questions that child-free people always have, and that's just finding other people who are child-free to be friends with, whether it's your neighbor in the same city or someone halfway around the globe. We're going to have with us today Arif and Sadiq. They will be talking about kind of how they got together and have this camaraderie through being child-free. And the interesting thing about this, and being from North America, the U.S., as I am, it's one of those things that I didn't really know that there was a little bit of, what's the word?
Conflict?
Yeah, well, yeah, or maybe, or predisposition of what you might think of another person from another country. And
misconceptions.
Yeah, misconception. That's
Yes.
even better. And so with India and Pakistan, that's something that is, a thing. And it's just really cool because these guys are each representing from that country, and they've found common grounds in being child free, and they're big in their own communities of networking and representing the child free community. And so we thank them today for joining us. So we will pull up our guests today. Arif and Sadiq, how are you guys doing?
We are doing good. How are you, Cody and
Doing well.
Lenora?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks.
Great,
And
great.
thank you guys for joining us. I know it's a huge time difference for us. It's 12 o'clock our time. It's about, what, 10:30 p.m. for you guys?
Yeah, around that.
Exactly.
Right around there. So,
Hey,
yeah,
it's 10 in the morning for me up in Canada, so it's like really early
Yeah.
for me.
we're all over the place
Yeah.
here. So, with that, well, let's just dive right in. Sadiq, could you start us off and tell us about yourself and your child-free journey? And then we'll go to our.
Okay, so I am Sadiq. I live in Karachi and I work as a lawyer here at Sindh High Court. So, regarding my child-free journey, it was quite a long time back. I mean, my childhood that I never found it really, engaging or really very excited to be a child or a parent in the future. And at times I got really, bogged down when people used to ask me that when will you get married, when you're kid and all. So I was like, okay, we'll see when I grow up. And even when I was growing up in the teenage and, and when I grew up as an adult, and when I was seeing that, people around me are getting children and I mean, and they are getting married and specifically in the atmosphere that I was growing up. So, Pakistan being a country, it's quite an extremist and, and quite a conservative country. And I always used to think that, being in a very conservative and being in a very extremist type of country, that why still people are trying to have children. And specifically when we were growing up, so there were quite a lot of harsh and adverse incidents like, terrorism or many other social evils that were going up. Still, I used to think that why is it that people are still so hopeful and false hopes and all. And apart from that, people always wanted to go out of this country. I mean, I never see many of the people. I mean, the privileged one that wanted to live in this country and they wanted to go out. Still, I was really surprised that they still wanted to get married and I wanted to have children and wanted to grow and they wanted to grow these children up in this country. So this was, very surprising to me. And apart from that, there were many other things that I was, seeing that I never wanted to have child. I mean, not only in this country, but apart from that, even if I go, from this region. And another thing that really intrigued me when I was growing up, that in the subcontinent, if you see the subcontinent, I mean, not only Pakistan, but if you see India and Bangladesh also, it's one of the most overcrowded regions in the world. I mean, our combined population is around 180 crores, which means around 1.8 billion. So it's around 20 to 30% of the entire world population. And I was also thinking that why people still want to bring, people or innocent children into a region which does not, which never offers any quality of life whatsoever. I mean, every privileged one wants to go out of this region. So this was quite, weird for me. And when the COVID came, I mean, the main thing that really intrigued me when as an adult was during the COVID, when I was seeing that humans are so helpless. I mean, we are so vulnerable and we are so weird at times that, we know that any virus or any disease can destroy us in a few seconds, or, I mean, get us extinct or whatever it is. So, I mean, apart from that, when you see all these things that, humans, I mean, we humans still don't learn. So, COVID did teach me one thing, that uh, we humans are so vulnerable that a virus that we can't even see with our eyes, so it can, it can kill us or it can do any harm to us. But still, if you see, I mean, even during that time, people were still getting married, they were still procreating. I mean, you would be surprised to see that even during the COVID time, three or four of my friends, which were of my age, they still procreated and had children. I mean, even I was surprised that why even during these uncertain times, I mean, people are procreating and having children when they don't know what's going to happen next. So it was one of the eye-opening moments for me. And it was during 2020 or 2021 that I actually got to know about child free, that what is child free and what is antinatalism. And from that moment, I was really happy to know that I'm not the only fellow that has a weird mindset. Because people used to call me that he's a weirdo, he's an idiot or something, that he does not want to have children and what. But it was thankfully due to this community, Childfree community, that I got to know that I'm not the only one, and there are people that have actual issues. I mean, even if they are from privileged backgrounds, and even if they have the means to procreate and provide quality life to children, but still they don't want to have children. So it was really good for me to know through these communities that there are people that don't want to have children, and they also want to create awareness regarding this. So it was primarily due to COVID and due to these things. So yeah, this is about me.
And things haven't changed since COVID's. We're still kind of in the throes of it. For anyone watching this in the future, as this will be
Yeah,
archived, we're in 2022 right now.
yeah,
So yeah, you're not an idiot for for choosing to be child free, as you said earlier. Like everything is great.
yeah.
So Arif, what about you? What tell us about yourself and your child free journey?
Yeah, I live in the state of Jharkhand in India, and I was born and brought up in this steel city. It's an industrialized city, and I've had a very good childhood. And growing up, the challenges that what Sadiq mentioned, I faced the same kind of challenges. I was expected to, get good uh, grades in the school, and then perform well in the college and get a good job. Uh, Typical Indian mindset. And then uh, going further, the question that triggered uh, I do not want to have kids is the time when I just went to my office, and I went to my office after a holiday, and during that holiday, I attended a marriage ceremony, and I saw how people have been working so hard to get that marriage ceremony done, arranging all those parties uh, and all of those things. But uh, that experience, I I questioned all of those things, and then suddenly I thought that, okay, marriage is uh, the reason for marriage is to procreate. So I questioned that, and I looked in on YouTube, and then I come across several channels. They talked about being child free, and an antinatalist also came in. So, and when I learned about antinatalism from YouTube, and also child free from YouTube, and then this happened in the year 2017, and I was a potential child free and antinatalist. It didn't have any word until then. So I learned more and more about it through Google, and all those reasons that Sadiq said, all of those reasons are work for me as well. Like overcrowded places, like the trains and the buses, we don't get seats, and this pollution and everything. All people suffer a lot, and seeing all those suffering, I decided to remain child free, and now I'm trying to propagate this idea. Yeah, that's my story.
Awesome. And you both have kind of a similar background right there, and just discovering the term and the community of being child free. Is there anything in your country that even does child free even exist as a term there, or it's just now being learned and shared? Sadiq, please go ahead.
In our country, I mean, people are not really aware about being child free or being antinatalist, and even if you try to discuss about being child free or whatever the term is, so people would create it as a taboo. I mean, for them and for any human in general, procreation is natural, and I do understand it that it is natural, but there is something. I mean, we as one of the rare species that has the ability to question everything. Some species have a natural instinct to perform any task. I mean, they procreate, they eat, they have family, and whatever it is. But we humans, we have the tendency to question everything. We question our existence. We question about the quality of life and whatever it is. But in part of our world, I still think most of the species in our region, specifically in India and Pakistan, they still have a long way to go, and they're still. I don't think that they are developed as species or developed as humans. So if we even try to discuss these things, they would rather counter us in a very harsh way or in an adverse way. And as I said, that they would treat us as a weirdo or stupid, or rather than understanding or empathizing with us. So they would they won't really cooperate with us. So this is one of the primary reasons why it is very difficult to even discuss these things in our part of the world, and especially in Pakistan. But I've seen that these things in India, it is still getting much better. I mean, because India is a much diverse and a comparatively much democratic country. So in our region, it's very difficult, and it's thanks to the internet that I've been able to discuss these things with fellow Pakistanis. I mean, not only in Pakistan, but who are living in other parts of the world. So yes, I have been able to discuss it, but at you can say out of the virtual world, it has been very difficult. But it has been much more easier for me to discuss it virtually. So yeah, that's from my end.
And so, Arif, in India, is there a term that you have that's any kind of similarity to child free?
Yeah, some people are child free, and some people don't know about the term child free. They are child free, they don't have kids, and they have not come across the word child free. And I think a lot of Indians are, by their very nature, they are antinatalist after going through all of this suffering in their life, and learning from the suffering of others. They are naturally antinatalist, but they don't know the terms. Most of them are not aware of these terms, and it's out of those 100% of the child free, I mean, I would say 70% of them would recognize themselves as just child free, and I think 30% of them would recognize themselves as being an antinatalist as well.
So let's talk about you two and your friendship. How did you both meet? Do you remember? And do you have maybe different stories? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so we actually met at a Telegram group. So Telegram is an alternate of WhatsApp. So there was a child-free Muslim group which was created by one of our child-free 1980s group members known as Meza Patel. So she had created a group. So me, Arif, and a few others had met at this group. So it was back in, I think, March or April 2021. So it was just a chit chat on and a hi hello, and it was good to see that most of the problems that we had shared or had discussed, they were quite similar in nature. I mean, India and Pakistan being neighbors, we may be on paper we may be a different country, but our problems are somewhat same. mostly are very identical, and the frustration also is same. So I also coined a term. Me and Arif mutually coined a term called mutual hatred. So we have a mutual hatred against, all these customs and traditions that we have in India and Pakistan, and how humans have a low quality and a very pathetic quality of life. Not all humans, but at least quite a large amount of humans, that they have a very subpar quality of life and they're okay with it. The most frustrating thing is that having a low quality and a very pathetic quality of life, they don't have any problem with it, and they procreate at a very huge amount. So I mean, especially those that are unprivileged and living at the bottom of the pyramid. So this is what we observed in both parts of the world. So me and Arif had consistently discussed these things since like March and April 2021, and it's now around February 2022. And thankfully, our friendship, or a virtual friendship, has grown really well. And we have been having all these conversations at least around 2 to 3 weeks per week at least. On either Zoom or Google Meetups or various other platforms. And thankfully, there are other Facebook groups also that discuss about child free. So we are also on other Facebook groups called Child Free by Choice India, Team No Kids, and many other groups. So we have discussed on various topics, including child free, and specifically we have also discussed about old age and how there is a misconception that when you grow old, there will be children to take care of you. So this is one of the main reasons why that we were also discussing on these things, and we try to cater or remove this misconception that in old age you don't need children, you need medicines and caretakers. So children are just bonus for that. So yeah, I mean, this was one of the main topics that we used to discuss.
That's awesome. Okay, Arif, your side of the story.
Yeah.
Is what Sadiq said true?
Yes, mostly true. Uh, so we met there on Telegram, and then we used to have a lot of meetings, Zoom meetings, and Google meetings with other members as well. Many people from across the globe, joined us. I think mostly 10 to 15 people were joining in those meetups, and then that led to forming a smaller group, which is a bunch of good friends from India. Most of them are from India. Only Sadiq is the only one who is from Pakistan. So we do regular chit chats every now and then, and we discuss our how our day goes by, how our weeks go by, how our weekends go by, and then it's kind of a great forum to discuss our problems and try to help each other. We even try to help each other in small things, like somebody's shampoo bottle was not opening, we try to open her shampoo bottle online. So we do discuss about silly things as well, and we try to help each other, make each other's life better. When we see that people are trying to make each other's life better, we try to make each other's life better. So that's what we do.
It's very refreshing to know that men talk about like cosmetic problems too. It's not just women. I love it. Okay, I guess Cody, it's your turn.
Yeah. So, Sadiq, if being from Pakistan, just in general terms, like what are some assumptions that you had about India growing up?
Okay, so as a child, when we were growing up, so we are always taught that India is your enemy, and because the majority religion of India is Hindu, so they can't be your friends because Pakistan is a Muslim majority state. So while growing up, we were taught this toxicity and all, and because we were separated from them in around 6 7 decades back in 1947, so we can't be friends because we were separated for this very reason, that we have different culture or whatever it is. But it was all crap that we were taught, because we have the same culture, we have almost the same language, and even the religion is mostly same, because there are Muslims in India too. So this was all false propagations that we were taught, and it was thankfully due to the same art that we follow. I mean, it was primarily due to the music and due to the films. I would rather thank the movies and the movie makers that they were able to show their culture, and I was able to view their culture in my part of the world. So it was primarily due to the movies that I was able to see the culture that is very similar to us. And also thanks to the internet, that I was able to interact with many Indians, and they were able to, you know, uh, almost eliminate our misconception that we had as Pakistanis regarding India. So it was good to see that they have the same respect and the same love that we have for India as we were growing up. So it was good to see that. And now, as I've seen that, our problems are also the same. So all these misconceptions, thankfully, have been almost eliminated. And now I see that, at times I think that I'm almost part of that same region. At times, my language, my hobbies, and all these things are very similar. So at times often think that I'm virtually an Indian. I may be living in Pakistan, but I may be an Indian in my mind. So yeah, that's what I've seen.
And so, Arif, same question, but switched around. So, being from India, what were some assumptions that you had about Pakistan growing up?
Yeah, exactly the same as Sadiq said. We have been taught that India and Pakistan are arch rivals. They can't be friends. They have this border dispute for over almost 75 years. Uh, since the genesis of these two countries, there have been several. They have been in several wars, and that led to only destruction, nothing else. And oh, what we, what I learned about them is like. All these Pakistani guys are bad, and it's a bad country. It's a country which is the epicenter of terrorism. That is what we have been taught. But when it came to people, normal people of the say citizens of of the country, they are just like us. Same food, same kind of language, and similar problems. The entire region of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, or you may call it subcontinent, uh, people are the same. They just this hatred towards each other is it's just unnatural. These boundaries are unnatural. I think this should have been a single country, but unfortunately, it can't be changed. But what we can do is we can leave the past and go forward with a better mindset, and with a sense of positivity, we can make the bitterness between two countries go away. And it starts with people. There have been several marriages across the border, and there have been friends across the borders all the time. And we do see, after one of the temples in Pakistan that is opened, that is Kartarpur corridor, where two brothers were separated during the time of partition, and they met after 80 years. And so that went viral, and that was really both the brothers were crying after meeting after 80 years. And it's just India Pakistan are just like two brothers being separated.
That's a great way to put it.
I was just going to say, that is so beautiful, actually. I was wondering, Cody, do you think Canada and the US can learn a lot from this, and like how to get along?
Wait, do we not get along?
I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, we have an incoming comment. Oh, hi, Nandita. She says, hello, Sadiq and Arif. Nice to see you both.
Hi, Nandita. Hi. Great to see you.
So that basically, you both have basically answered the next question we had about the similarities, but I was just curious, how your mindsets have changed, towards each other's countries. Have you talked about that with your own friends in your area or your families? Like, do they have a similar point of view? Like, have they learned about, your the other country? Like, how has that come up in your own social circles, aside from the Childfree community?
Okay, so from aside the child-free community, if we talk about the change or anything, or even the awareness, I think there has been some awareness in my, at least in my family, or at least in, among my parents, my brother, or some of my very close friends with whom that I've discussed these ideas. So there have been very few people, I mean, in my vicinity that I've been able to discuss it, and some have been really positive, and I mean, they have appreciated my idea. But most of them, I mean, they have been their viewpoint or their reaction has not been always positive, but yeah, they have been somewhat, accepting of it. So it's good to see that at least my brother and my mother, they have really appreciated my viewpoint. And even my brother, he's more of a, he has a more of a child-free tendency, and even he does not want to have children in the future, even if he does get married. And but my father, he does not really comprehend or really appreciate my idea. But some of my friends whom I've discussed with, not much of them, I think maybe three or four, or maybe five maximum. So some of them, they have said that, yeah, we do respect your ideology, but we will still have children, and we will, procreate. But still, yeah, I mean, we do appreciate. And what observed, that some of the people, I mean, I've not directly interacted with them, but I've seen few Pakistanis in my city, Karachi, and virtually I've seen in other parts of Pakistan, that they do want to be child free and they don't want children, and they do think that, procreation is not always, I mean, not always a mandatory thing to do. There is still a choice to do. So I think, yes, I am still hopeful, and I think there will be some awareness in the near future.
So Arif, same question. Like, what has like your attitude shift towards people, like to Pakistan in general? Have you talked, about that in with your own family or other friends as well?
Uh, well, my family have always been, quite a liberal kind of family, and they have been accepting this fact that they're also humans, and they're like, it's an unnatural boundary. And when it came to my colleague and friends, most of them are of the friendly nature, and they want this unnecessary war to come to an end, and this unnecessary hostility to come to an end, and they want to become friends with the people across the border, and they want to live a very kind of normal brotherhood kind of life. And when people have been understanding this, that this 75 years of hatred has given them absolutely nothing. It's just a way of the politics to deviate people from the real concerns of their life, and try to shift their attention towards this what we say that border problem. So this is the tool that the you know uh, the political parties have been using to deviate people from asking the right questions. So uh, this many people have came to know all of these things, and people have been quite accepting of the people from Pakistan. Yeah.
And it sounds like just over time that Sadiq, you had mentioned just the sharing of cultures, just learning about what's going on in the other country in general. That and also that problems don't know borders. So it doesn't matter if it's not going to get contained just because on a map there's a a line put in there by pencil. The pandemic has shown us that for sure. We're all in this together. So yeah, it's interesting to hear from the outside. Kind of looking in that there is hopefully a bridging of the gap that's been there for, you said, 75 years, and hopefully some relations are being built, and it all starts with these individual ones, with like just what you guys have, and talking to your family, your friends, and forging those friendships that way.
Absolutely.
And so, as far as the child-free lifestyle goes, how have each of you fostered the child-free community in your area, even if it's online, in your own forums or groups? Sadiq, go ahead.
Okay, so what we are trying to do as being as child-free, so we are at least trying to have regular meetups, and after having those regular meetups, we are trying to make some strategies or make some ideas that if we adopt this child-free lifestyle, I mean, if because we already are, and when we grow old, I mean, when we won't have that liberty of, having a stable income, and we won't have the optimum health that which is needed to live in the near future. I mean, if we grow old, like in the 50s or 60s, so what will we have in the future? Because even if we are married and we don't have children, so we need someone, a support system that will help us. So we often discuss about having a pool of funds or a mutual trust or a mutual fund that can help us uh, have a collective, a group, a collective fund that, if needed, I mean, in the old age, so that can help us to cater our financial need. And we are also discussing about how can we have old age homes for people who are already child free or want to have a child free lifestyle, because we need to have a proactive approach. We don't need to have a reactive approach that, or that we got child free and we don't have any people to support us. So we already need to have a proactive approach that can help us to make amends, and already have a system that can support us. So we are, for now at least, we are in the pilot stage of creating all these plans, and most of these ideas are coming from India. I mean, it's very limited input from Pakistan, because me and a few others have been contributing to these things. So yeah, most of these inputs are from the Indian community, and we are still trying to have a collective output that can cater these things not only in a specific country, but on a more broader level. So yeah, that's it from my end.
So, Arf, what are you working on?
uh, we are trying to make smaller groups, like 5 to 10 people who have some commonalities, like like India is a very diverse country, right? So every 200 kilometers the language will change, and also the kind of food will change every 200 kilometers. So the main thing we are trying to do is to make it more regional. People from one region can live together and can share their culture and their kind of food they eat. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to make these smaller groups who would live together in the future. Like I'm just 30, so people in after 10 years or so we will try to live together. So what we can do is we we will live together for a week, and then 2 weeks try to live together, and then try to see that we are compatible as roommates or housemates or you know flatmates. And then we can yeah, as an experiment, and if that goes out successful, then we can try to live for with each other forever. So that's the plan of making a community of 5 to 10 people, because more than that will be difficult to accommodate. So so we have got people scattered all over India, and that's a very big challenge. And that's what we are trying to do, find out people from our own locality who wants to live together. So that's a challenge, and we are working on this. That's the thing.
I can speak to America, and in the old-fashioned ways. You basically had kids because, well, they still think the kids are going to take care of you, but the parents would more than likely literally move in with the children later in life. And just the way that society has changed with the divorces and the mobility of work and jobs, people don't live in the same small town that they once grew up in. And so the parents, 50-50 chance they're divorced, they might be in different towns. The kids are going to grow up and they're going to probably go work in different towns or cities across the country, or another country even. And so for us in the American the way the system's going is there are tons of retirement communities where older people will go to, essentially retire out the last 10 or 15 years of their life. What's it like in your respective country as far as that dynamics of a family and what's expected of the children in that regard? Sadiq, go ahead first, please.
Okay, so in our country, I mean, Pakistan, what I've seen that, the joint family system still exists. I mean, most of us still live with our parents. I mean, even if people do get married, they tend to, I mean, the man, I mean, the husband, he tends to live with his parents. I mean, the wife accompanies him, and the husband and the wife and the children, they tend to live with their parents or grandparents, whatever it is. So the joint family system still exists in most parts of our country, and specifically when it comes to the smaller cities and the rural areas. I mean, so in our metropolitan cities like Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, people still tend to have nuclear families. I mean, when they get married, they tend to go out of their parents' house and they live in separate families, or they tend to go out of this country. I mean, if they are not living in that country, they go out. I mean, they go abroad, and the parents are living in their home country like Pakistan, and many people migrate to either the UK, Canada, whatever it is. So they tend to migrate there. But in what I've generally seen that people still live in the joint family system, and but what I've also observed that these things may change more in the future. I mean, if people get more privilege, they get more awareness and more opportunities, so they may not live with their parents. I mean, at a more broader level, because these things are happening at a small level. But if they get more opportunities, so obviously they won't live with the parents. And some people are realizing this, that that they won't be able to live in those connected joint families. So the nuclear family system, and even the uh, I mean, living separately. I mean, some people, I mean, some boys, I mean, some men, they are not living with their parents if they get the opportunity, even if they are not married or though they don't have children. So yes, that these dynamics are changing, which you mentioned about the US or Canada or any of the privileged, I mean, developed country. So yeah, I mean, the dynamics are changing, and they may change at a greater level in the future.
Arf, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we have got a similar situation as Sadiq said. The best thing is, I would say, is that divorce rate is very less in India. It's like 1%. So it's in US it's like 50%, and in India it's 1% of the marriage fail. So I think marriage will be a safe thing to do, considering the probability of getting failed marriage. So so the idea behind marriage is to procreate, and and out of that procreation, people believe that their children will take care of them when they are old. But nowadays it's quite difficult. People don't see that children, when they grow up, they will take care of the parents. uh, uh, as Sadiq said, the concept of joint family, it's still there in India. A lot of family will live with their cousins and with their uncles, and everybody in the family is there. Uncle, aunts, grandfather, grandmother, everybody is there. So in a single house. So like it's like 10 to 15 people living in the same house. That's a normal thing in India. And now the things are changing a little bit with capitalism coming in, and big companies coming in. People are moving towards the bigger cities, and we see now more nuclear families. uh, there is a shift from joint family system to nuclear family system, and it's just but still the parents are taken care of, not the uncles and the aunts, but yeah, parents will be taken care of by their sons. People generally want to have son rather than daughter, because it's the son responsibility who is going to take care of the father and the mother, and it's the daughter-in-law's responsibility to take care of her father-in-law and mother-in-law. So this is the expectation in typical Indian society. uh, as far as daughters are concerned, it's said that they belong to someone else's house. Like, it's said that they belong to their husband's house. So the daughters are expected to take care of her husband and her husband's father and mother. So this is the normal family system in India. and its functioning is still, it's 90% of the family still runs on the same concept, but little there is a shift from that. People are moving towards being nuclear family, and with more urbanization this will happen, this will continue to happen. So that's the thing.
So with the joint family system, how does it work with finances? If the children, the adult children, are bringing in funds, like is the property owned by the parents? Like, is there money coming in through different resources that way? The uncle that's hanging out on the couch, like, is he contributing? Like, what happens with the finances in the situations?
So yes, Adi, go ahead.
Yeah. So what happens usually in the joint family system? So, for instance, in my case, so I'm still living with my parents. So one of the main reasons that people, I mean, our generation tends to live with our parents because most of us are unable to afford a house or purchase a house when they are in their 20s or 30s. I mean, the inflation has skyrocketed. I mean, even to have a separate home for ourselves, or one bed or two 1 BHK or 2 BHK, whatever it is. So it tends to get difficult for us to have purchase a different separate house for ourselves, and to live in the same city on rent on a different vicinity. I mean, it's foolish, that if your parents have a house which is sufficient enough. Uh, through which you can live with them, because most of us have sufficiently spacious houses, so we can live with them. So this is one of the main reasons why we tend to live with our parents, and the property is obviously they are owned by our parents. And but when they pass away, or if there is any demise or whatever it is, so the property or the whatever the area or vicinity or the house in which we are living in, so it gets equally distributed. I mean, if I have an apartment or a house or a villa, whatever it is, so it equally gets distributed by between the children and whatever it is. So regarding the funds, I mean, what happens that when if there, for instance, if there are two sons that are living with their parents, so they equally contribute towards all the household expenses. They tend to distribute it with their own family, like their children and their wife, and the rest of them, I mean, whatever the specific amount is, they tend to contribute it towards their parents. So same goes for all the remaining family members. I mean, if it's a large family, so it gets usually easier financially for them. So this is one of the main reasons why many families tend to live in joint family system, because the cost of living becomes comparatively cheaper for them, at least. So yeah, I mean, this is how they tend to distribute it towards their family members. Yeah.
Arif, any thoughts on that?
Oh, you're
We got you.
muted.
Yeah, actually what happens here is, we have the senior most male member in the house, who is the grandfather of the house. And the grandfather, the sons will give him the money to run the house. This is the grandfather responsibility to run the house. So grandfather will take the money from his sons, and he will take equal amounts from his son, and he will just spend for the groceries and the rest of the stuffs. And it's the son's responsibility to give the money to their parents. And then it's the grandfather actually who runs the family. He is the captain of the house actually. And when the grandfather passes away, then comes the the brothers. Those two brothers, actually those two or three brothers, will come in, and they might get separated, or they try to live together with their wife and their children. So it's in the household, you have got your real brothers, your cousins, sisters, everybody living under the same roof. And it's a kind of great display of tolerance, and that's what we have been taught, to be tolerant towards each other, and to be respectful towards each other. And people do generally don't have a single problem living in the house, and there are some problems here and there, but all in all, there is a great unity in the family members. And uh, uh, yeah, that's enough. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
I
It is
appreciate it.
admirable when that lives in a townhouse by herself with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and doesn't want to share anything with anybody. It is very commendable.
It sounds almost like it's the marriage around system though, because kind of have to have kids to help contribute funds to the household, and it's like a never ending cycle. And congratulations, you guys, for kind of breaking free of that.
Yeah, and I also agree with the comment made by Nandita that yes, it is somewhat a brilliant plan, redefining family. So yeah, I do agree with that.
Which actually is a good plug for an upcoming panel for the 2022 virtual Childfree convention happening later in July. Yeah, so we have a question that segues to our next question, actually. Can we get that, please? So the question is, are you more interested in empowering people to make responsible and informed procreative decisions, or do you think as antinatalists that it's never okay to procreate, even if it is done consciously? Sadiq, go ahead.
Okay, so being an anti-natalist myself, that obviously I don't want people to procreate, because what I've observed, that not only in humans but the other sentient beings. I mean, we do have these conversations with fellow anti-natalists and fellow child-free people, and specifically with the anti-natalists, that life is nature itself is quite harsh. That you don't want to procreate or to bring life into this world. I mean, whatever optimism we may illustrate. I mean, I do agree that technologically and financially and socially, we humans have advanced, and our quality of life has been much, much, much better than our predecessors that did have. But still, when at times when you observe, and people may call it pessimism, but when you have some pensive thoughts, and when you observe that how I mean, nature has designed our life to be a bit harsh, and suffering is there altogether. So obviously we don't want people to bring another sentient being to this world. But again, I mean, I don't want to be overly pessimistic. So if people do want to consciously bring another sentient being or another child, I mean, specifically when it comes to human beings, if they want to have their own family, they want to get married and have children. So yes, I mean, if they want to, then they can go ahead. I mean, we don't, obviously we can't stop them or whatever it is, because obviously there are people that are still, I mean, majority of people are having a really good life. I mean, they have a good quality of life. But again, it comes to individual choices. I would rather limit it, obviously, to limit his or own individual choices. I mean, being a CF myself, that I don't want to procreate, but it could be different for when another individual who has a much more optimistic point of view towards life. So yes, it's up to them if they want to have children, but again, they should provide the optimum quality of life. I mean, if they are not able to provide the quality of life, then they should rather refrain from uh, bringing another child to this world, which is uh, somewhat depleting in nature. Yeah, that's it from my end.
Arif, how about you?
Well, I am an antinatalist myself, and when I see people procreating, I feel bad for the child. Welcome to the world. So when the babies come in, a lot of celebration is done, but yeah, that's good for the parents because they have got their insurance policy for their old age. So but not for the baby, because he is going to grow up, face all the challenges of life, traffic pollution, everything else, and diseases, and then old age, and then die. For the baby, I don't feel good. For the parents, okay, congratulations to them. But creating a new life is just like it's automatic. People don't think about what they're doing, and that is what upsets me. Doing even we do anything, and we try to consider the pros and cons of any decision, but when it comes to baby, it's automatic, it's expected, it's in the system. It's written in the system that once you get married, you got to have kids. So people never question this norm, and this is not good. uh, it's like we are not using our brains to question everything in life. It's just people who are sensible enough to question, they will come to the decision that procreation is actually a very bad thing to do. um, because there is no part of consent. We cannot get consent from the baby that he or she wants to come into this world or not. Had I been given a choice that you want to come into this world, I would have simply said no. uh, but unfortunately I didn't get. There is no mechanism of asking someone who is unborn that you want to come to this world or not. So saying after considering all sorts of suffering in this world, I think it's better to leave the unborn.
I do want to add a thing that I do agree with this statement made by Arif, that yes, even if I had the opportunity, or if even I have been asked the question that if I want to be born and brought up into this world, that obviously I would have also said no. So yeah, and I also want to refer to the book by David Benatar, Better Not to Have Been Born. So the points that he has made into in his books, in his specific book, Better Not to Have Been Born. So yeah, even he has referred to this statement. So yeah, I also agree to that.
So from the outside looking in, it appears that being an antinatalist is the default identifier as opposed to being child free. So what would you say to that? Because that's a common question that even I get, being in Canada. They're like, well, are you an antinatalist in addition to being child free? And my answer is no, I am pro choice. But it's a very different life living here. So, to a lot of us, it seems like in your particular countries, antinatalism is really the main identifier. Is there any validity to that statement?
And this is a very rudimentary definition on the screen right now. It's a little more complex than that, but that's just if you had to look at it at a glance.
Okay, so can I add?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah. So the definition that you just provided regarding antinatalism, it's really good and it's very relevant here. And I just mentioned about David Benatar also. So he also says that bringing any sentient being, I mean not only human but any sentient being to this world is immoral, and it's he or she, whatever the sentient being is, he's bound to suffer. So if people do think that being child free is by default means antinatalism, so it could be contradictory in nature, because there are many child free people that don't want to be, or though they don't identify themselves as antinatalist, but me and Arif and many antinatalists like us, they do identify as not only child free but also antinatalist. So yes, I won't only say that it's immoral. I won't really say that, but yes, it is harsh to bring a sentient being to this world, because as we have mentioned that the overall pathway, I mean the process from being born till we die, it is suffering. I mean, people don't really identify in this, and if we tell them that it is suffering, life is throughout the life it is suffering, they would say that you have a pessimistic view of life. But what they don't tend to realize, or they tend to ignore, that there is suffering all the way. I mean, specifically when it comes to old age suffering, when I mean, even though you have lived a very high quality of life, you have availed all the opportunities, you have lived a really good life, but whatever the suffering that you endure, specifically in old age or whenever you get a disease, it all really melts all the benefits that you had in your life. Even that 1 inch or 1 ounce of suffering is just able to eliminate all the benefits, all the happiness that you enjoyed in your life. So people need to realize this, and they may think that we are being pessimistic, but this is the reality. And even Gautam Buddha said that the man who pioneered Buddhism, he also said that life is suffering. You may agree or not agree, but it is suffering.
Arif?
Yeah, I wanted to say that it's better to be expertly pessimistic than be naively optimistic. So my point is that people are suffering from one problem that is called optimism bias. People think that everything in life is good, and they try to overestimate the quality of their lives. But in reality, they do suffer. Even the richest man, like Elon Musk, also suffers. So I would say that uh, to consciously to make a decision to not to procreate is the best decision. And people who are educated and still they are procreating, I think it's really morally wrong to bring kids. And people who are ignorant, I would say that ignorance is bliss. People who are ignorant are always happy. People who are educated and who think a lot, like the philosophers, they are not really happy. So it's not necessary that people who are always looking happy, they are genius. And it's not necessary that people who are concerned or who thinks a lot deeper, uh, they are they they are sad. That doesn't mean that actually they might be more considerate about things. People who think a lot, they are much more considerate about the facts. And they check the facts, and then come to a conclusion of not having kids. And that's they get a better conclusion, by considering everything. And when people might call them pessimist, but pessimists are people who uh, take things considering everything. They consider everything. They think a lot. Their range of thinking is very high. So pessimism is not a bad philosophy. It's a good philosophy to have. And yeah, that's my point.
That's something to ponder over coffee after this is done. I'm going to be thinking about that because I'm always like, I'm an optimist, but there's realism, pessimism. You make great points. Okay. We should have almost had Nanda on this panel. I feel like, thank you so much for all your comments and questions, Nanda, by the way. Cody, did you want to read this up?
Yeah, it says Nandita agreed that no one should procreate unless they can guarantee a minimum standard of welfare for the potential children, and we must shift the focus away from what the parent want to what the child needs. And yeah, I think as far as like antinatalism, pronatalism, I wouldn't say that I'm an antinatalist. And Lenore, I've heard you mention that you wouldn't say that you are either. But that doesn't mean that I'm a like full-on pronatalist either. I don't think people should just be having kids for the sake of having kids. It should all be well thought out and planned. So I'm a child-free identifying individual, but I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily antinatalist. And it's interesting when I look at kind of what Lenore was saying earlier. When I look at what's the involvement of the child free community in India and Pakistan, it seems like it's almost like heavily weighted for antinatalism. Like it's almost like child free, and then like the very next phrase so it is antinatalist as well. And so it's I don't know if it's just because of maybe what's happening in our respective countries where as you're mentioning with the dual families and this the system that's currently going on there, to wanting to kind of just break the chain, break the system to get some freedom away from it. And I don't know, Lenore, what are your thoughts on
that? I wasn't ready for that question.
Sorry. Being a child-free, not non-antinatalist.
Well, okay, so it's interesting because the more I have conversations and the more I broaden my even understanding of what the child-free mindset is, because I used to be of the opinion that being child-free means you never wanted to have kids, you don't have kids of any kind, fostering, step, whatever, and you don't want any in the future. I was so hardlined, and a part of me still is that way, but the more I hear other people's experiences and realize there's so many different nuances to it that we talk about gatekeeping. Well, when I listen to the antinatalist perspective, there's a part of me that goes, well, is pro-choice, am I really child free if I'm saying you have a choice whether or not you want to have children? Like there, it's really hard to pinpoint. And I think we talk about division even within the child free community. I imagine there's division even in the antinatalist community. And So if someone who identifies as an antinatalist listens to someone like me who says people have a choice, does that make me less child free or kind of like on the fence in that realm? Like I don't have answers for anything. I'm just always absorbing these conversations and seeing how my mind shifts as I understand from other people's experiences. Because, when someone says they're child free, I don't assume antinatalist actually, and this has been really cool, like getting to know Arif and Sadiq, and even, being in some of the chats you guys have had and just listening to your perspective, because really, again, I look at it, go like, most people from your region do sound like they're antinatalists, right? So, but I have a very different life experience, very different upbringing, again, Western Canada. And it's my answer is just, it's just so cool to hear all the different options and different mindsets, because there's so much to learn. And I hope, and this is what, with Child Free Convention and various other just conversations in general amongst child free people, is if we can listen to each other's perspective and have a bit more understanding, then we wouldn't be so hard-nosed, I don't think. I mean, we would respect that, this is how I feel. If you're an antinatalist, this is how you feel. You strongly support this mindset, these actions. As a pro-choice person, you support this mindset, these actions. And, someone who does end up having kids, but like, can't we all just get along? Sometimes no, but it's just so fascinating. So I probably didn't answer your question, but that's how I feel right now.
Got Winter joining us here. It says, well, most people believe they are able to provide the minimum standard of welfare when they aren't. Egotism is rampant in those who procreate because it's equally as rampant in humans in general. So thank you for your thoughts on that. And just what Lenore was just saying, Sadiq, you mentioned it earlier, just seeing the culture of what's coming out of India for, their Bollywood or whatever it might be. I feel like that's what these conversations are all about from the child-free realm as well. Hopefully people who are curious about what's going on the other side of the fence with the child-free community, they find these conversations happening and seeing that we all come from completely different backgrounds, but we have this commonality. And that's what really drove this specific talk to happen, is we were really interested to hear from both of you gentlemen on your upbringings and what you were taught growing up and what you have gained in knowledge as an adult with your own ability to do research and to make your own choices. So definitely thank you guys for the time of joining us today. We appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting us, Cody and Lenora. And Arif, thank you so much for joining along with me.
Yeah, I would also like to thank Child Free Convention for giving us this opportunity to come up and speak our perspective and sharing it to the world. Thanks a lot.
So is there anything, like, how can people reach you if there's people in your area that you want to join your meetup, Google Meets, whatever you're doing? How can people get in touch with you if you want people to get in touch with you? I guess I should ask permission for that first.
Okay. So yes, absolutely. We want people to join us, and we want people to be aware of child free and antinatalism. So you can reach out to us. So you can reach out to me as Sadiq Suleiman. I'm available on Facebook and Instagram. So you can, ping me up on all these, social media sites. And apart from that, we have a few Facebook groups also. If you want, we can also add you up. So apart from that, we also have weekly meetups with, fellow child-free people from not only India and Pakistan, but also different parts of the world. So you can also join us. And if you want, we can also, exchange our ideas. So yeah, thanks.
So we'll put Sadiq's social media in the comments below once we finish the live. I'll add that to the description. Arif, is there any way to reach you, or is Sadiq the contact person?
Yeah,
we want to protect people's privacy.
You can contact Sadiq as well. You can get in touch with me on Facebook at Arif Raza. You can join child free groups like Child Free India and Child Free by Choice. So these two groups are my groups, and you can come over there and we can hang out.
Very cool. And we'll put that in the description later when this is archived. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Cody and Lenora. Thanks.
I guess that's my cue to do wrap up. All right. Yeah. Well, this has been a child-free friendship, India and Pakistan. Again, thank you, Sadiq and Arif, for joining us today. For more information on Child Free Convention in general, you can go to our website, childfreeconvention.com. Of course, we have the 2022 virtual Child Free Convention coming up later in July. As of this recording, we have one more week. We're accepting speaker applications. The deadline for that is February 28th. If you're watching this in the future, you can still apply, but the deadline's closed, cut off. And we'll be making announcements, the actual date, and we'll be announcing the official topic panels coming up shortly. So that's exciting. Cody, do you want to tell everybody who you are? Plug something. I'll do that, and then we'll say goodbye.
Cody Hetzel, founder of Child Free Family. Found at childfreefamily.com. It's just a cool micro social network for child-free individuals all over the world, and it's got a cool map, so you can literally, once you have a profile, little ping pops up, and you can find people all over the place and make new friends.
So my name is Lenora Faye. I do a lot of things, but I have a podcast called Child Free Girls, which you can listen to. You can follow me on Instagram at Child Free Blog, and of course, all Child Free Convention stuff. We're here. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our audience. Thank you for the comments. And if you're watching the replay of this, you can always ask questions to the panel, put them below, or you can DM us if you want privacy, and we will get a response to you as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening for you two, afternoon for you, Cody, and everybody else watching. Thank you again. We will chat with you all soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.